locals died there, a lot of locals born there too. Like the famous actress and comedian Carol Burnett. She was born inside that old Nick's Hospital, and she grew up right around the street off of Commerce Street. Coming up straight ahead of the boat, a 16th floor Hyatt Regency. It's only 16 floors because our Daughters of the Republic of Texas issued a statement in 1981 that no shadow shall fall on our Alamo. And you guessed it, folks, on the other side of us, currently in that building, sits the Alamo today with no zero shadow. Has anybody gone to see the Alamo today? Raise your hand. A couple of folks. Did they inform you when you're walking on Alamo grounds and the surrounding streets that you're walking on somebody? 2 bodies? 3 bodies? A whole bunch of bodies? Because you are. There's over 1,000 recorded known burials on Alamo grounds and the surrounding streets alone. Such good news, such great news, right? You're just surrounded by the locals here in San Antonio, both alive and dead. They're everywhere. And straight ahead, more good news. That bridge the horse carriage is on doesn't have any welding on it. And it's over 100 years of age, too, with just nuts, bolts, and rivets holding it together since 1891. There are 5 bridges downtown with no welding on them. They're called Rosetta-style bridges. You want to hold your breath as you cross them. They're all made in Berlin, but not Germany, Connecticut. And that is Crockett Street above us. Why is it named after Davy Crockett? Well, I just told you the Alamo's over here. That street lines up to where Davy Crockett fought and died on the South Palisade Wall on the 13th day, March 6, 1836. And we're now getting into Restaurant Row. This is where most of the restaurants are in the San Antonio Riverwalk. If y'all need suggestions tonight, please let me know. I've lived in town since '89, and that means I've eaten since then. And I also got a sweet tooth. So if you do too, I know where all the chocolatiers, the bakeries, and the panaderias are. Let me know if you're looking for the best chocolate cake. The best chocolate cake downtown, about 5 blocks south at Liberty Bar. I've been going to a bar since I was 8 to get cake. They have the best chocolate cake, and you got to get 2 glasses of milk with it. It's so rich, and maybe 2 forks if you're willing to share. Yeah, Liberty Bar is delicious. Straight ahead, in between the trees and the Christmas lights, you're going to see on the street level a bright colored modern art statue called the Torch of Friendship, right up there. That color of the statue, that's San Antonio's official signature color, enchilada red. Enchilada red. And then on the other side to the right, the Clifford building sits. In 1941, the architect of the Riverwalk, Mr. Hugman, put his office on the lower floor of the Clifford building. When there were 0 businesses on Riverwalk level, he was trying to prove a point, and his design made sure it would never flood downtown here in San Antonio again. But the locals didn't believe Mr. Hugman, our architect. They believed in Mother Nature. They waited for 5 years after it rained and it didn't flood to start building on the Riverwalk. So for half a decade, nothing happened. Until 1946. Here on the right, the first business opened, and it's a restaurant still here today, Casa Rio. That is, of course, our oldest Mexican restaurant on the Riverwalk, too. Why they put it here? Well, just in case it did flood, they were going to be knocking on Mr. Hugman's door. San Antonio River. It's like a winter wonderland down here without that white nonsense snow. Yeah, we don't have that here. So that Casa Rio behind us, if you came here in 1946, that was the Riverwalk, one restaurant. Woo! Yeah. They did have something special though if you came here for your honeymoon. They had that one restaurant and a boat ride. And I'm not talking electric boats like you're riding right now, folks. They were gondolas like in Venice. They would paddle you around, manpower. Paddle you around, and then they'd bring you back when your table was ready. How they knew your table was ready back then, they didn't have cell phones, So they sent smoke signals out with the fajita plates. I don't know the answers, folks. I have no idea how they knew your table was ready, but I will make it up as I go along if I don't. This is a man-made channel. It's about 4 feet deep, concrete bottom. If I want to fall in the river, I'm going to fall in here, because why? I won't have anything squishy between my toes. Yeah, concrete bottom. This was developed in 1968. That year, San Antonio, Texas turned 250 years of age in the city. And we had a 6-month-long fiesta pachanga party called the World's Fair. When people came from all over the world to come check out the city of San Antonio, just like you are today. We do have some new items here to our right. These sculptures depicting flowers the butterflies like to snack on, like the lantana, the birds of paradise. They put in real flowers, of course, at the butterfly garden or a pollinator habitat. And those sculptures are made out of recycled bicycle parts. Keep on looking to the right-hand side. You're going to see the Tower of the Americas, or the Hemisphere Tower. That was the gem of the 68 fair because it was the tallest freestanding tower in America at the time back then. And I still like to take visitors up there today, get the bird's eye view. Just imagine all these Christmas lights from above, sparkling, gorgeous. However, there's a little bit of a hiccup for me. I've got this problem. I don't like heights. And that glass elevator that goes 730 feet in the sky is not my biggest fan because it goes 7 minutes to the top. Not like a quick elevator ride, no, 7 minutes long, nice and slow, and a glass elevator up 730 feet is not my idea of fun at all. But I will get up there, and there is motivation to get me there too. Maybe you also, as they have a happy hour from 3 to 7. That gives you that liquid courage so you have no problem coming down on the elevator, right? And look at the top of that tower. Just imagine a crazy man harnessed himself to the roof. About 5 years ago, it was in December 2016. He was crazy, but he was also a member of the Harlem Globetrotters basketball team. And they're all nuts. One guy, he harnessed himself to the roof, just one dude. He walked towards the edge holding a basketball, which he just dropped over the side, down to the ground, into a basket. A 583-foot, 8-inch drop shot. Now the tallest basketball shot made in North America. And you don't believe me? Check it out on YouTube under the keywords San Antonio Harlem Globetrotters. What's cool is watch that video when you're up there and get his perspective. You'll see that he really is nuts. And I told you ladies, I'm a female captain, but we are not stopping at the mall. I am so sorry. However, I can give you directions to this mall right after the tour if you want some. But be careful when you get here, folks. They do say this is probably the most dangerous part of the Riverwalk for your wallet. Yep, over 100 retail stores. Be careful with the credit cards. And I am a Texas girl. I was born here. I've been raised here, so it is my duty to the other females on board. I gotta inform you about this store called James Avery Jewelers. That's a South Texas jeweler out of Kerrville that does gold and silver work, and us Texas ladies gotta have like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pieces by James. So go check out, see what we're wearing and what we're talking about. Even if your significant other is with you, just do some window shopping. You don't have to buy anything today. Because it is 2021, I figured this out for you. You can always go home and shop online also at jamesavery.com. Sorry I don't have a promo code. Now also inside the mall we got a little bit of entertainment. There's an IMAX, an AMC. There's also a Dave & Buster's and a Lego Land for the kids. There's sharks inside the mall. That's right, not in the river, inside the mall, an aquarium called Sea Life. You can also cut through this mall to get to the Alamo, and that's how you want to do it here in South Texas, the air-conditioned route. Go behind me up the escalators, and how American is this? When you walk outside of Starbucks, you're at the Alamo. But I know when people look at the Alamo, a lot of kids especially, they look at it and they think to themselves, that is no roller coaster. Yeah, it's just an old building. It's not very exciting, I understand, for the kids. But if you want something exciting and edgy and strange, when you walk outside of Starbucks, you can also go to the most haunted hotel in San Antonio, the Menger Hotel, spelled M-E-N-G-E-R. Right on the other side of this mall is the Menger. They say there are no less than 32 ghosts and spirits that haunt those rooms and halls. Hay 32 fantasmas. And you might like talking to these 32 dead folks better than your friends and family because they don't talk back or argue. They listen so well. It's so pleasant as it is a one-way conversation. And I just told you the Alamo is also on the other side of this mall, but I do have to let you know, and I hate to burst your bubble if you don't know this, the Alamo is not the real name of the mission. I am so sorry, but that is just a nickname. The original name came from those Spanish missionaries, the Franciscans, over 275 years ago, when they called it in Spanish, La Misión San Antonio de Guerrero. Hold on, let me tell it to you slowly. La Misión San Antonio de Guerrero. Now try to say that 3 times fast, rolling your R's. Good luck. It's a whole lot easier to say the Alamo, the Alamo, the Alamo. And at the end of the tour, I will tell you why it's called the Alamo. So very soon. But in the meantime, I want you to look at this good-looking guy here coming up on our right-hand side. He's 8 foot tall, big boy. That is St. Anthony. That's who that is. That is who this river in the city is named after. And it was Father Damien Massanet that named it the San Antonio River in 1691. In 1718, we became the city known as San Antonio de Becar. So our city is named after the river, not vice versa. We could have kept the name. The Payaya Indians called this river 303 years ago, too. And today you'd be vacationing in the city of Yanaguana, Texas. Yanaguana is what they call this river, the Payaya. Don't try to say it or spell it, but what's fun to say is Payaya Yanaguana. Say the whole thing. Straight ahead, you're seeing the Tower Life. That's our first tower. We just have 2 towers downtown, just 2. Easy to remember. Pretty picture though, pretty picture. But I don't want you to miss this building. It's kind of buried within the trees. On my right-hand side, you're going to see a church steeple kind of sticking up between those trees. That is St. Joseph's. That's our first German Catholic church, not German Protestant church. In 1868 it was built. You see the church steeple, there it is. And that year, the street signs in 1868 were in 2 languages here downtown. The first language obviously was Spanish. Second language, not English, German, Deutsch, Alemán. We had a huge population of Catholic Germans who moved to Texas in the 1800s. And it was only because of one man. You know who? Martin Luther. In 1517, he nailed his Reformation to a Catholic church and started his religion. By the 1800s, Germany became a Protestant state, and they were kicking the Catholics out. They came here to Texas. German Catholics started cities around us you might have heard of, like Schulenburg, Fredericksburg, New Braunfels, Grün. Y'all call it green, but it's called Grün. And the Germans also came to San Antonio, and they started businesses as they were natural businessmen. They took the natural resources and made very, very good money because they turned the water into beer. This water that you're traveling on right now, they turned into beer. Cerveza. The Germans owned all the large industries. They owned the lumber yards, the flour mills, the rock quarries, the hotels, and owning all these big businesses, they had big homes, mansions. And 5 blocks south, the oldest neighborhood in Texas is the King William or the Kaiser Wilhelm district. Just 5 blocks south. That's where these mansions are from 1870 to 1930. Beautiful homes in Richardsonian Renaissance type of architecture. And that's where a lot of us locals like to go eat, about 5 blocks south. We don't eat on the Riverwalk. It's too many chain restaurants. I can go anywhere to a Saltgrass. I like mom and pop shops, small businesses, like that Liberty Bar that has the best chocolate cake downtown, or the Hot Joy restaurant. But before you go to Hot Joy, wrap your mind around this first before your tongue. It is a Mexican Chinese food restaurant. I know, that's confusing. Mexican and Chinese food all in one. Hot Joy restaurant. That's why I told you wrap your mind around it first before your tongue. And we're on the natural flow of the San Antonio River yet again. The San Antonio River goes about 230 miles to the Gulf of Mexico, to the port of San Antonio, and once we get there, I'll recharge the boat, and we'll keep on going to Cancun. That sounds like a plan to me. Let's say, peace out, San Antonio, let's go to Cancun. And on our left-hand side, the Hilton is part of the Guinness Book of World Records, when it was built in 1968 in 202 working days. How they did this is a modular built hotel. They didn't take off any weekends or holidays, straight 202 days. And the first 4 floors are built on site. The middle section also where the elevator is. But the over 400 rooms above, those were built 8 blocks away, prefabricated like little doll houses. They had everything ready to go inside, like the bed was made, carpets down, curtains up, soap in the soap dish, Bible in the nightstand. They even had the colored TV and the lamp screwed down to the furniture, so when the room moved from 8 blocks to here on a trailer, nothing moved inside that room. Once they got them here on the trailer, they did use the crane to lift these up and stack them like Lego bricks, Lego blocks, whatever you want to call them. They stacked them one by one by one by one, doing 35 rooms a day. They hooked up the power, the water, the cable, and then the HB Zachary Company finished it in 202 working days. Mr. HB himself, back in 1968, he actually rode the first room up inside the room as the crane lifted him, and the last room inside as the crane lifted him through the sky. And so down here we have signs all around us that read La Villita, La Villita, La Villita. Don't you dare say La Bolita. La Villita stands for, in Spanish, little village. And that's exactly what this is. Our first neighborhood, our first barrio. Here on our left, only 4 years after we became a city, in 1722, this is where the Spanish set up shop in their homes. 100 years later, the French and the Germans joined them, though. They were amigos and neighbors all getting along. But now, back here in La Villita, the old homes turned into shops, boutiques that showcase South Texas artisans. So yet again, girls, shopping, shopping. This is the Arneson River Theater in La Villita. It sits about 300 folks. And there's a stage on my right where you might have music or dancing, comedy, Shakespeare performed, a lot of times for free. We love our free stuff here in San Antonio. And right back behind that stage, the 5 bells, those represent our 5 missions in San Antonio. I mentioned the Alamo already, but I haven't mentioned 9 miles south. There's Mission Concepcion, Mission Espada, Mission San Juan, and Mission San Jose. With including the Alamo, that makes a total of 5 missions. That's right. That means that these 5 missions are UNESCO sites. They're up there with the Taj Mahal, the Great Wall of China, because they're International Heritage Historical Marker recognized. And that's a great honor for us. Underneath the cypress trees, you'll see a vaquero on my right, the Mexican cowboy, herding his cattle statue. Very lifelike. That belongs to the building behind it, the Briscoe Western Art Museum. That's a new museum, about 10 years old. Originally, this structure was our very first public library in the city in the mid-1920s. So again, gives you an example of how we like to repurpose our buildings. There are 3 items inside this museum I'd like to borrow permanently, if they let me. That'd be nice. They have a Wells Fargo wagon inside, and I drive horses, but I've never driven a Wells Fargo wagon, and I'd like to take it on a joyride if you'd like to ride in the back. That'd be kind of fun. Then also inside, they've got 2 saddles that I drool over. One of them is Pancho Villa's last known saddle with silver embellishments glittering all over it, and then Roy Rogers' saddle with gold and silver embellishments inside. Those are definitely what I'd like to keep. And here we go underneath another bridge with no welding. And it's not any better news because this is an older bridge. This is an 1890 model. Standing with just nuts and bolts and rivets holding it together for over 100 years. These bridges, do they make you wonder why you have to get a new cell phone every 3 years? Because they do to me. Yeah. They say that's marketing though. And on my right, a heart-shaped island like a corazon. Made by the cypress tree roots is Wedding Island. That white duck, she's kind of famous. That's Georgette. She's our only American Peking duck on the Riverwalk. You might know her better as a Aflac duck. Georgette, the Aflac duck right there. And the heart-shaped island, over 300 weddings happen here a year, so that means this is the most romantic island on the Riverwalk, and you Rico Suave Prince Charmings on this boat need to take your loved ones over here and give them a kiss. Besito is very lucky, más suerte, okay? But I do understand you folks are in a hurry a lot of these days, and if you're in a hurry to do that kissing, guys, we're about to get in that tunnel of love. And I will park the boat right here, because when the boats are rocking, I don't come a-knocking. So you boys go ahead and start kissing right here. Ow! Why not? Full boom of this light right here, we'll all see who is with each other. We hear see anybody else is kissing each other. Come on, nobody's kissing. Nobody loves each other, okay? All right. I understand. I'll make sure y'all get on different boats next time. Yeah, So this Tunnel of Love is essentially a bridge that we just went under, but no bridges existed here in San Antonio 200, 300 years ago. So where would you cross the river? On horseback, wagon, on foot? Right here. This is the only place you could do it, called Old Mill Crossing. This is the most shallowest point of the San Antonio River in the whole city. And down below us, it's not dirt, but a limestone rock bottom. So if I'm driving my wagon through here, my wheels weren't going to get stuck in the mud. 200 head of cattle could cross here safely and get a little bit of water. Local and national news came crossing through San Antonio here, delivering the news. So local ladies, on a daily basis, this is where we would come to do our laundry, listen to the news, and hang out and gossip. You think after 200 years they figure out a way we didn't have to do laundry anymore, but we're still doing that. And now we're on Facebook gossiping. So not much has changed in 200, 300 years. And I told you we're going to be here shortly. Here we are on our left-hand side. Look at the American flag flying high above our Tower Life. This is our first tower in San Antonio, built in the beginning of '29 for $3 million. That's a lot of money back then, still is today. It was owned by a Mr. Smith and a Mr. Young who had life insurance companies. And these guys, they thought that this building was the best because it's protected by gargoyles on the top. And on the first floor right there above the lights, you're seeing these faces giving us the stink eye. Those are called grotesques. And they are grotesque. These gargoyles and grotesques are supposed to protect the building from evil spirits and bad business, but they didn't do their job. Because after the men bought the building for $3 million in October of '29, the stock market crashed and the Great Depression ensued. They went bankrupt with their life insurance companies. And not only that, these gargoyles did not prevent them either from selling the building for $300,000 when they bought it for $3 million. So they got pennies on the dollar on that sale. But if you look back at the building, you do have to think about the little people that had life insurance policies with the men. That money in the policy was adios, bye-bye, gone. So this one building shows you the trickle-down effect of the Great Depression from top to bottom. Tower Life. Pretty building, isn't it? Makes me feel very patriotic when I see that building with the American flag up there. Very patriotic. And looking straight ahead, though, right past this bridge, that building, that's where I have jury duty. Woo! Jury duty. Yay! That is the Bexar County Courthouse. That is the oldest and largest courthouse in the state of Texas. Been there since 1896. It's made out of red granite and red sandstone. That's all native Texas rock. I just love it when they call me up for jury duty and I get paid $6 a day and parking's $20. It's fantastic. And we went from 3 feet of water into 10 feet of water right here. This is our flood prevention tour. Our flood prevention, oh sorry, I can't even talk right now. Flood prevention channel. And right back behind us, that's how we get to Mexico. Right back behind us, that's how we get to Mexico. You want to go back all that way? Okay, let's go back that way. Let's turn it around. We're going to do some donuts. But I have to give you an idea though, folks, before we go that way to Mexico. About 200 yards, you see those lights? There's a 15-foot drop right there. You still want to go to Mexico? Oh, okay. I think you'll need some liquid courage though. We need to get a margarita machine on there before we do that. I'm actually probably going to do that my last day of work. It's called the Going Over the Edge Tour. Y'all having fun doing donuts? Whee! I like to take my time, folks. I'm not in any hurry. I don't have anywhere to go. Whee! Whee! She's having fun. I love it. I want to put you on the microphone. You sound way more cool than me. So this is our flood prevention channel. It's 10 feet deep below us. And exactly what this is doing is preventing floods from ever reaching downtown or the Riverwalk. Before this was built, we had some bad floods before the past centuries. The last one in 1921, where, I mean, you could imagine from 8 to 10 feet of water rose above the streets. So there's the water below us. There's the street above us. 8 to 10 feet above that. That's 2 to 4 feet taller than me, and it went through like a wall of water, killing 50 people of drowning within 20 minutes. When this wall of water hit some of the buildings, of course they collapsed with people inside. And we didn't want that death or destruction ever to happen again. So we gave folks jobs right after the Great Depression. They started building up the Riverwalk like you see it today. With the help of Robert H.H. Hugman, the architect and designer, they finished it in 1941. So since 41, no floods downtown. No floods on the river wall. Yay! In case it rains tonight, you are safe. But just you. Because the rest of San Antonio still floods. Just not downtown the river wall. And if you have a good pair of eyes, which, I mean, most people don't, you might be able to see in between these trees right here a two-tower structure called San Fernando Cathedral. That is the oldest operational Catholic church in the state of Texas, right in between those trees, from 1738. Why is the oldest Catholic church back there? Because that's the original town square of San Antonio de Bejar from 1718. Some of the oldest buildings in Texas are right back there. Also, like the Spanish Governor's Palace from 1749, and that's where we hung 35 people. Because that was our courthouse back then. And if you were convicted of a very serious crime, of course you were hung by the Tree of Sorrows. 35 people we know of were hung, not all at once, one at a time, by that tree. It's still there today, where you can see the notches where the ropes used to be by that Spanish Governor's Palace. And we have another historical tree straight ahead of us. We haven't done any hangings from it though. This is the Ben Milan tree, 90 feet tall, a cypress tree over 200 years of age. Cypress trees like this in the past were used to make ships because they're moisture resistant. Now they use them to make salad bowls. So we're not going to make a salad bowl out of that tree, because it is the historical Ben Milan tree. He was one of our heroes at the Siege of Bejar in 1835. And during the siege, which we won on December 7th, he was riding his horse through this area. Obviously it wasn't safe, because he was shot in the head by a Mexican marksman of a rifle hiding up in that tree. That's why it's called the Ben Milan tree. And Ben Milan, he came from Blanco, Texas, a little bit north of here. They're now making it his name, Milan whiskey. And to me, that's the saddest part of the story right there, is Ben got shot in the head, but then Ben never got to try his own whiskey either. That's not fair. Back into 3 feet of water, and right past the construction, speaking of whiskey, you can get a libation here, right past this construction, the Esquire Tavern. That is the oldest bar on the Riverwalk. It did open up the day after Prohibition ended in 1933, fully stocked with alcohol, as it is still today. But you can just, like have a Shirley Temple, extra cherries, at the 109-foot-long wooden bar, because this is the longest wooden bar in Texas at the Esquire Tavern. And there are a couple other spots where you can get into a historical bar. Kids can even go inside, like the Manger Bar or the Buckhorn Saloon. This is where our former president, Teddy Roosevelt, commissioned Rough Riders before they trained here in Texas and were shipped off to Cuba. How Teddy Roosevelt commissioned and signed up these Rough Riders, I just told you it was at a bar. He got them inebriated, gave them that liquid courage, and they signed right up. Yeah, even Teddy Roosevelt ghost comes back to San Antonio. Came back here so much when he was alive, why not? He hangs out at the Manger Bar right at the Moose Tavern. So go check out Teddy tonight if you have a chance. And we are coming up to where we started by the Aztec Theater. We are going to be getting off on the left-hand side. In the meantime, check around yourselves to make sure you have all your belongings. People seem to be leaving stuffed animals with me and all sorts of souvenirs. So make sure you have everything with you. And if you have any questions after the tour, or maybe, you need directions, don't feel bad if you're lost here in San Antonio. The locals are too. Everybody's lost. Not just you, everybody. You know what my mom told me before I started driving? She said that San Antonio streets were mapped out by a drunk man riding a blind mule. My mom is right, as she is always right. Because mamas are always right. That's right. No matter what culture, mama is always right. So sit down, folks. We're going to stay seated for a little bit while I do some parkour over these strollers. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you why it's called the Alamo. And if anybody knows why it's called the Alamo, go ahead and raise your hand.
I don't know if they're looking at your phone. I'm not ready, Because actually, we got all this history, but we have no clue why it's called the Alamo. There are theories that the historians have, but there's no proof behind these theories. So you have to decide here, okay? So first theory, 303 years ago, still today, along the San Antonio River, are the cottonwood trees. The cottonwood tree in Spanish called Los Alamos. So maybe it's named after the prevalent trees. Then the second theory, here it comes. 1749, a militia group came from Mexico here to San Antonio. We needed to be protected from the live hand Apaches that were stealing our livestock and our groceries. And this group of men came from a town in Mexico called Alamo de Parras. They even nicknamed them the Alamo Company or the Alamo Company. So maybe it's named after these gentlemen, or maybe it's named after the trees, but we just don't know. You pick one. You pick one. We don't know. All right, we do some parkour.
Okay, give him it now.
Parkour.
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 You're allowed very much to appreciate gratuity. If you'll have any questions, please let me know. And I'm going to go help with these strollers right here. So stay seated. I'm going to help lifting these up.
I'll help you. I got this, girlfriend. I got this. Don't worry. I'll lift bales of hail.